Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, our website, or our social media. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing a lovely Ulysse Nardin Marine Diver, 40 millimeters in stainless steel. This is from the first series of Marine Diver launched back in 2001, taking the aesthetic of a 19th century or early 20th century Ulysse Nardin Marine chronometer or deck clock and transposing it into a diver format as a wristwatch. This is one of the few wristwatch divers that is not simply a Rolex ripoff. It is very distinct and original in its style. 40 millimeters in diameter, the watch is quite slender in profile, only 12.2 millimeters thick, so it's thinner than a Submariner by about 3/10. Lug-to-lug, it's 43.1 millimeters, and end link to end link, it's a broader 49.4 with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on the wrist. The watch wears easily. Here you can better see that it's not a thick watch. It's a timepiece with a lot of character. Ulysse Nardin designs tend to be very strong and emblematic of the brand. They're anything but derivative, and they're never generic. On the wrist, the watch has an enormous amount of character and charm, while still being suitable for a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference and low enough to fit underneath the dress cuff. Taking a look at the hardware, the bracelet is an impressive piece, nicely made. It has a design that, like the watch itself, doesn't appear like a Rolex ripoff. Most three-link designs look like the Rolex Oyster. This looks nothing like the Rolex Oyster. Polished centers, staggered alignment. You can see there's a distinctive side profile, almost peaked for the flanking links, which feature satin tops and satin outer faces. You can see all removable links are fixed in place by screws, no pin sleeves here. You have a stainless steel folding clasp with twin trigger release. It has a straight through polish, and then internally it has a fold out dive extension, which feels just as solid and redoubtable as the Omega Seamaster dive extension from the period that has been the subject of much praise. This is a timepiece that is also thoughtfully designed. As you can see on the underside, there are gaps between the links to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat. There is a twin trigger release system here to make sure that this clasp also is going to stay shut. No cheap clamshell system used. Ulysse Nardin being honest about how dive watches are used and the fact that crown guards tend to frustrate setting and easy screwing in and out of the crown. By the time you lose a crown due to a lack of a crown guard, you've probably lost part of your wrist too. So in the real world, they're impractical. Ulysse Nardin does well to eliminate them. Screw down crown. The watch, as you can see via the case back, water resistant, down to 300 meters. Rotating bezel, and as you can see, it's all metal. Back then, a lot of brands would have used an anodized insert, which would have scratched easily. Ulysse Nardin uses a set of metal facets with a wave motif down below, etched mechanically, and then raised and polished indices and numerals with a luminescent pearl. The knurling is deep, sharp, and easy to grip, and a pleasure to align with the minute hand. Once you align with the minute hand, you've got a count-up 0 to 60-minute timer that I find more intuitive than a chronograph. The case is all of high polish, and as you can see, it has a concave profile when viewed from the flank. There's an individual bolt-held satin finish and engraved inked number plate, just as you would have found on a vintage Ulysse Nardin Marine chronometer. These are individually numbered with a bolt-fixed plate. You can see the same case shape, albeit less evident on the crown size because of the lack of the plaque. But then we rolled the dial, and we see once again doing things their own way with a dimple-style black dial. It is a matte black dial with polished applique, not printed indices. Ulysse Nardin uses its own module that creates the small second date arrangement and the power reserve. That's on top of an ETA 2892A2 chronometer certified. So altogether, the Ulysse Nardin complication module and the ETA automatic base, 28 joules, automatic winding, power reserve, quick set date, hacking seconds, 5 position adjustment, and beaten away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. The dial, as you can see, is designed to look, yes, just like a Ulysse Nardin Marine chronometer, meaning you have the power reserve at 12, the small seconds. The date, of course, would not have been a feature of the original, but many of the elements, including the dimple pattern of the dial, are drawn from history, back when a deck clock would have been integral to the navigation of a civilian or naval vessel. And of course, because Ulysse Nardin was known historically for chronometry, prior to its revival in 1983 by Rolf Schneider, most of its halcyon days were in the distant past. Although, as you can see, with many gold medals, Ulysse Nardin, during the 19th century and early to mid-20th century, a formidable competitor for the cause of chronometry at many international exhibitions. My favorite, sentimentally, the Chicago Fair of 1893, the big comeback from the fire. This is a timepiece that offers an enormous amount of brand character and a distinct differentiator in the dive watch space. Let's face it, most divers are just Blancpain or Rolex ripoffs. This manages to be none of the above while still communicating the history of the brand that produces it. Ulysse Nardin, the Marine Diver. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the UN Marine Diver, Big Loom by Night.